Hey, it's Arne Johansson, Johansson Realty. So we're going to be doing some interviews with people in the community, that just work in Minneapolis, either, people like Dave, electricians, or, coffee shop owners, or plumbers, or, just anybody really, and anybody that can provide something of value to either somebody looking to buy a house or sell a house. So I've worked with Dave for a number of years on some properties, and I thought, hey, Dave, come in and share your knowledge with your electrical knowledge for the places that you're working on. So, why don't you tell people a little bit about your background? We were talking earlier, you said you got your license 36 years ago, or what?
34 years ago. So I've been a journeyman for 30 years, and that's pretty much it. I've seen a lot.
But how did you start? You said you had
I was
fun
actually
story.
applying for a warehouse job at a place called Kendrick Electric, and he asked me would I be interested in being an apprentice, and I said, well, I didn't know. I was just actually applying for the warehouse job, and he said it pays 50 cents more an hour, and I said I can do that, and so that's how I got into it.
And so, okay, so you got into it 36 years ago, roughly. You got your license 30 years ago, and then you were working for another company for what, up until when?
For 24 years, I worked for a company until the downturn in 2006, and I was the highest paid person there, so I was the first one kicked out the door.
Okay,
And that's when I started CA Electric.
Okay, so and you were working like what, in Apple Valley and like everywhere around the metro, pretty much.
Right, mainly suburbs at that time. It was during the housing boom, so I did some, all from smaller end homes to uh, most of the big ones that our company did, and then all the commercial work. So
Okay, so and then now you still live in Apple Valley, but you say most of your business is like in Minneapolis metro area, or like
yeah,
where would you say most of your jobs are?
most of my jobs are in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So I typically don't do new homes, although I do a few larger ones. But most of my work is remodels, service changeovers, uh, troubleshooting, things like that. I do a lot of commercial remodel.
Okay, so we were talking earlier. How many houses do you think you go through, like on a every week or month? Like how many houses do you think you go through?
I suppose in a month I might go anywhere from 20 to 50 houses in a month, just depending on if we have commercial work going at the time or it goes up and down, but we do both. So, but about 75% as of last year of my work is residential.
Okay.
And all of it, I would say at least 90% of that is in the Twin Cities.
Okay, so you go through like 25 to 50 houses a month, and most of those are in Minneapolis Metro. How much, like, what would you say, like, the top two or three service jobs that you see for, like, people who just bought a house or people who are selling their house? Like, what are the type of jobs that you guys are working on?
Well, a lot of them, if you're buying or selling a house, is either upgrading the house from few service changeovers to panel changeouts. Like the FHA won't allow somebody to sell a house and get a loan through them unless it's at least 100 amps. So all the 30 and 60 amp services that are still out there have to be changed if you're going to get a loan that way.
And a service, like, some people might not know what a service is, so, like, what is a service change out?
That's a service change out is if you have 60 amps and coming into your home and from the transformer or from XL power lines, and you have to upgrade it to 100, or 100 is pretty much the minimum that you can have at a house now, and you could go, anytime you upgrade that from 100 to 150, 100 to 200, and so on, as high as you want, I guess. I put them on as big as a residential property is 600 amps.
Okay, so you're doing the service, and then is that different than the panels? Putting a new panel, and this is the box in your basement that has all the electrical breakers in there. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, there's panel changeouts, so if you have a panel that's 100 amps but it's fused, you can change those to breakers relatively easy. a service changeover is actually changing everything from the point of entry to your home, whether it be underground or overhead. So that would include an overhead. That would include the mast, the meter, um, and the panel.
Okay.
Where a panel change out would just be the panel.
Okay, so we're doing services, panels, and then what would be like the one other thing you think you do a lot in like Minneapolis homes and
A remodel. When
Remodel.
people want to remodel, taking out walls or some, gutting half the house, additions, things like that.
okay, and like what would you say? So you're doing a lot of that, and like so when you go in a house and you see stuff, like what are like the one or two things that you see a lot there? Just like what's going on here?
Well, extension cords in the walls and in the ceilings aren't good, especially when the ends are cut and they're wiring them right in. But aluminum wire is one thing.
Is that common, by the way, to see extension cords like in walls?
Especially in some of the older homes that have been fortunate enough to have Joe Handyman own them. We see some of that stuff. I've also I've just seen some pretty illegal wiring, and some of it is really hazardous. Some of it isn't not going to hurt anybody. It's just not right. So
So you see some Joe Handyman specials. That's like one common thing, and then obviously there's old panels and services. Anything else that like you see a lot, or like a homeowner should look for, like when they're going through houses?
I think you need to be educated on aluminum wire, if there's aluminum wire in a home, knob and tube wiring, ungrounded systems. So, I mean, when you walk into your house and you see two-prong receptacles, that is a good indication that your house does not have a grounded system. And
that's pretty common for houses in Minneapolis, right? Because they were built before when they started grounding all the boxes,
the whole service, actually. So that's pretty common, and in most cases it's not really dangerous. But when some of the stuff has been heated and cooled so many times that the insulation's starting to fall off, then that's an indication that we need to change things. And I just think that you should check into that, and if nothing else, you can probably get a qualified electrician to come out and take a look at your home before you buy it. And I would suggest, if you decide that you want to purchase a home, then it wouldn't be a bad idea to have an electrician take a quick look at it and
just
give
make
you
sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then like what are some like prices generally for like when you've seen like service changeovers? Like I know the prices range, but like for somebody buying a house, what are some like estimated prices somebody could expect to pay for like some of those items that you're talking about, like
Well,
for a panel, for example?
Okay, a panel change out, probably could go from around 800 to probably 1,300 is a pretty fair price, unless there's some extenuating circumstances, and then your electrician should tell you that. I mean, I've heard some pretty bad stories about an old man that I read it in the Star Tribune anyway, that he paid $3,500 for a panel upgrade, they called it, which is essentially a panel change out. And then they interviewed some other electricians, and one guy said that he would do it for $2,000, and the last guy ended up saying, "Geez, I wish I could get that kind of money because I'm doing them between $800 and $1,200." So
yeah, so watch out for that. Call Dave so you don't get ripped off on those. So $800 to $1,200 for the panel, and then like
a changeover, then you're doing everything. So I would say you could probably count on the very low end would probably be about $1,300, and that would probably go up to any $2,000.
Okay, and then like all that little, this little stuff, the handyman special stuff, that kind of needs to be bid out because it's all about time and materials.
Right, and I do a lot of that, and most electricians are going to go worst case scenario if you want a definite price. But if you get a good electrician that knows what he's doing and is honest, you can work by the hour with them. But I mean, everybody's always scared of that. But I think that if you can find an honest electrician that you can work well with on that kind of stuff, it's probably the way to go. Because everybody else, I mean, I would bid it worst case scenario if you wanted a flat price.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Or you could you know, you could go not to exceed or whatever, but, you know, you know, that's how I would do it, is by the hour. Find somebody that you can work with and that you trust.
Okay, cool. Well, that's pretty good. That was a lot of helpful information. If you are looking for an electrician in Minneapolis, give Dave a call. We'll put a link to his site, or, you know, email me or call me. And obviously, if you need a good real estate agent in Minneapolis, give me a call. And we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Dave.
You bet.